Hi, my name's Kat. I'm part of the Wild Alaskan Company recipe team. Some of you know me. I know some of you. Today, we are going to be cooking salmon from frozen. It does require an air fryer for this particular recipe, and I think that the air fryer is by far one of the easiest appliances or tools you can have for cooking any fish from frozen. It's not the only one, but I think it's the one that gives the best results. If you don't have an air fryer, that's okay. There are always options that don't require air frying, but today is all about air fryer, frozen fish, and cooking spontaneously. Little ingredient overview of what we're using. It's very basic. It's salmon, olive oil, or any kind of oil, and then teriyaki sauce. I actually don't have the ingredients for the teriyaki sauce here. I'm making a homemade version later, but I'm making teriyaki salmon from frozen in an air fryer today. I have one of these sort of beastly models. It's like toaster oven, but much bigger. And I used to have the one where you pull out the canister or whatever, but this is what I have now, mega air fryer. They pretty much cook the same, but so that's what I'm using to cook salmon from frozen today. This is a great recipe to have in your back pocket, this like air fryer teriyaki situation that we're making, because it's fast, easy, delicious. You can cook on the fly. You come home, you realize you don't know what you have in the fridge or freezer, but if you have an air fryer and if you have a frozen fillet of salmon and maybe a sauce, then you're pretty much good to go, as soon as you open up the freezer. So all in all, this entire recipe situation is just going to take 15 or 20 minutes. So it's great if you're hungry right now. I'm going to grab a salmon fillet. I have a sockeye fillet as well as a sockeye burger. I actually just got my box today with some goodies in it. So actually, this is a great thing if you ever get your box and you just want to rip into it and start cooking right away. I kind of like the idea of using this recipe. So like I said, I'm going to use a fillet of sockeye and also a sockeye burger. These are pre-seasoned and ready to cook. Like you don't really need to add much to it. There's like nice little organic premium spices, all the good stuff in there. I just wanted to bust this out because this is a great option for cooking from frozen as well. And you can do a similar kind of preparation like a teriyaki burger. So let's get these out of the package first. So burger is more or less out. My air fryer has a basket that's kind of like this. I'm just going to put this on there for now so I have some place to put it. And then the salmon fillet out of the package. You can do this with coho as well. I would maybe recommend not trying this with king salmon. I do try to pick a fillet that is thin. So sockeye usually is a thinner fillet because it's a smaller fish. Like a 6-ounce portion of sockeye is usually not going to be like a really thick, chunky center cut. This is going to be a smaller fish that's a little leaner. So the fillets, when they cut 6 ounces, are going to be a little thinner. Some pieces thinner than others. So I love to use the thinnest piece I can find in the freezer because it's going to cook from frozen a lot more evenly and just going to be a good way to use the particular dimensions of this fillet. So I just have these on the basket here for now. But basically what we're going to do first is cook these part of the way without really, we don't have to put anything on them. We don't need to season them with salt. Maybe I'll just brush a little bit of olive oil onto the sockeye burger. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a squeeze situation on here with my little squeeze bottle. Oh, there we go. And give that a nice little rub front and back. I'm not going to oil the sockeye fillet at the moment because I want this to par cook. So partially cook for the first 5 minutes. The reason I want to do that, and actually you can probably see this on this fillet, is that most of the fillets, when we have them, have a really thick layer of ice on it. You can kind of see that glinting in the camera here. I'll show you on my phone camera. It's not freezer burn. It's not ice crystals. That's an ice glaze that's applied to the fillets after they've been frozen, and that protects it from the freezer. But we do want to get that to be melted off of the fillet first before we actually put something like a fat or any seasonings on it, because those are just going to make it a little messy and not stick the way you want them to. So I'm going to set my timer here for 5 minutes. My air fryer is set to 400 degrees, and I'm going to cook this for 5 minutes, and then we're going to check on the pieces of salmon. We're going to give them a flip, do some stuff to it. There you go. Getting that started right now. Okay, in the meantime, what I want to show you is just a really simple teriyaki style sauce. It's not really teriyaki sauce. Teriyaki sauce is actually only a few ingredients. I forget exactly. It's soy sauce, mirin and sake or something. But the teriyaki sauce that we're making is going to be like what I think teriyaki sauce tastes like, just like really sweet, savory, and bold. So what I have here in my pan is just some minced garlic and ginger. So I'm gonna get this going over medium heat on my little induction burner here, doing a mix of soy sauce and water, basically just a thinned out soy sauce. Going to add a couple tablespoons of honey. You can use something like maple syrup instead. This is going to be a very slow drip here. Hang on. So we'll just eyeball a couple tablespoons. Maple syrup, like I said, is a good option. If you don't have either, I think brown sugar will give you a really nice flavor profile because it's a little more complex than something like white sugar. But essentially, you just want to add something sweet here. So whatever works for you should be fine. None of these measurements are very precise either. We're just looking for a nice balanced flavor profile. So measuring it up is easy, but I'm going to eyeball it right now. Tablespoon and a half or so of rice vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar if you have it. You just want something acidic and tart. So the acidity from any kind of vinegar should work here. You could probably even use balsamic vinegar if you really felt like it. And I think it would work just fine. So this is going to come to a really gentle simmer here shortly. And the only other thing we're adding to this is a little cornstarch slurry. So I have equal parts cornstarch and water mixed together here. You know, you don't want to add cornstarch directly into a sauce like this because it's going to get clumpy and not dissolve. So it's good to just make a little bit of a slurry first, like literally just mix some water with the cornstarch so that it is suspended in this solution before you add it to something where it ends up getting clumpy and weird. So this is going to prevent the weirdness. Once this starts simmering, we'll just pour this into the pan. You raise the heat a little bit. So the reason I'm making teriyaki sauce for salmon cooked from frozen is one, it tastes good and it's fun. I really love this kind of sweet, savory combination of flavors, especially with a fish like sockeye because it has a really nice, robust flavor profile. But in addition to that, sometimes when you're cooking fish from frozen, and actually even when you're cooking fish not from frozen, salmon especially can release this white sort of milky looking protein called albumin. It's pretty much tasteless, safe, normal. It's just a protein that gets expelled from the fish as it cooks. And different species, different cuts, different sort of like cooking techniques, including cooking from frozen, can make that a little more extreme or obvious. So in case your fish ends up looking kind of funky, the sauce covers it up is what I'm trying to say here. Just getting this to a nice bubbling simmer, and I'm gonna whisk in this slurry. The cornstarch is already thickened this. It's almost like instantly become a sauce. So I'm just gonna let this come together for maybe another 10 seconds or so. And I hope you can see how thick that looks now. That's like a nice brushable consistency for my salmon fillet. You can just give that a taste if you like and add any adjustments needed. If you want a little more sweetness, if you want a little more acidity, now is the time to add it. I actually think I'm gonna add, just stir in a little more honey, give this honey a little help with my fork here. And I think that will be that sweetness that I'm looking for. All right. If you feel like you need to add something like salt or pepper, you can also do that. But I think my soy sauce was salty enough. If you're using a reduced sodium soy sauce, you might want to add salt, although that is probably defeating the purpose of why you bought reduced soy sauce to begin with. So perfect. If for some reason you don't have garlic, if you don't have ginger, you can still make this and it's going to taste delicious as long as you have the soy, the sweetness, and that cornstarch slurry in here. So I'm going to set this. I'm going to pour that into that bowl that I had soy sauce and water in earlier and just set this aside for now. All right. Salmon should be partially cooked at the moment. Let me take this out of the air fryer here. So I'll just put it right onto my induction burner. So sockeye burger is definitely not the prettiest thing when it's just a single patty on its own, but it's one of my favorite things to have in the freezer and eat. This is now a little tacky on the surface. So all of the ice glaze has melted off at this point. I believe the sockeye burgers have a little bit of glaze on it, but yeah, these are feeling still raw, but no longer ice cold. So we have them partially cooked now. So this would be a great time to add things like seasoning or sausage is if you don't want to add a seasoning or sauce, what you could do now is just add a little salt and pepper to something like the filet and then pop that back into the air fryer for another 5 to 7 minutes, depending. I know some of my colleagues also they don't even take it out and season it or flip it. They just do everything all at once. And that works as well. I'm just a little bit of a perfectionist, I think. So to the salmon fillet, I'm going to drizzle this with olive oil now. So I just want to add a little bit of fat to it. Fish spatula is a good tool to have to get a big fillet like this off of the basket. Ooh, I probably should have oiled the basket a little bit. Ooh, there we go. Oh, that didn't stick so bad. So I'm just going to put this onto a plate for the purpose of prep. Should be fine right there. Drizzle this with some olive oil or any kind of oil that you have, and you can just brush it on with like a proper brush or the back of a spoon, whatever utensil you have near you. Want to make sure the bottom gets some oil on there as well. And then to this, I'm going to add my teriyaki sauce. Nice glazy mixture here. And the rest of the sauce we can save for the end to serve as a little extra bonus. There's plenty in here. This is much more sauce than you'll need for a single fillet, but it'll keep in the fridge for, I don't know, 1 to 2 weeks, something like that. So that's nice and coated. Adding a little bit of the glaze now will add a lot of flavor to the fish as it cooks. It's also going to protect it from the heat a bit. Between the olive oil and this sort of like sugary, delicious, glazy thing that we have on the outside, it's going to look pretty fine when it comes out of the air fryer here. So let me transfer this to my basket. And for the salmon burger, we can kind of do the same thing. A little bit of sauce. The salmon burgers, like I said, they're already pre-seasoned. You don't need to add or do anything to them, but I love a teriyaki sort of fish burger. So I think this is a really fun way to change it up if you are familiar with our sockeye burgers. So let me just give that a little move around and then put it right back on the basket. With my style of air fryer, because this is like a mesh basket, I tend to skip the flipping that is sometimes recommended in recipes because I feel like there's plenty of circulation around it. The other air fryer I had was that, like I said, that more of like a canister style. And while there were air holes for steam and heat to come through, it wasn't this exposed. So let me set this for another 5 minutes and we'll check to see if the fish is done then. I think that these might be done. So both of these are looking beautiful. Actually, as soon as I put this on my counter, there's like the albumin just leaked out of the bottom of my sockeye burger. And actually the underside of the sockeye burger looks a little gnarly right now. So I'm not even going to show you what it looks like, but basically the albumin is coming out of the sockeye burger. Very much expected, not very visually appealing. So we're going to leave it looking beautiful and gorgeous like this. The glaze kind of protected the fish as it cooked so that it wasn't expelling all of the albumin. And the way to see if this is done is really just to, maybe you can give it a little touch with your finger. The sockeye burgers sometimes need a few more minutes, but this feels nice and hot to me. So if it's a little underdone, I can always toss it back in. For the salmon fillet itself, if it flakes easily, it's ready. And that looks like it's perfectly flakeable, nice juicy piece of fish. Yum, super hot. Also, so yum and ow. I'm gonna just reassemble that here so it looks nice. And we can go ahead and plate these since they're probably done. I just have a few really, really simple options here as sides. I think I'm going to put the salmon fillet with, you'll see here in just a minute, I have like 2 different options. All right, sockeye burger coming off now. There's just that residual albumin on the mesh basket here. Give this a wipe. All right, so sockeye fillet I have with just some kimchi on the side. I think that's a really nice combination of texture, flavor. The kimchi, if you haven't had it before, is fermented cabbage. It's like nice and sour and crunchy. So I think that's a really good combination for this. To make this look a little, a little fancier, you can add something like sesame seeds on top if you feel like it. Other options for this is scallions, maybe fresh chopped cilantro, pretty much anything. For furikake, it's like a Japanese sort of seaweed condiment. And then for the burger, I'm not putting it on bread. I feel like I eat the salmon burgers just like I would eat like a salmon fish cake. So serving it with a really nice salad on the side, I think is a good way to enjoy this. Sometimes in the morning, I've been known to put the sockeye burger on a bagel with an egg on top. I'll put some scallions on here to make that look really pretty. I love green and purple together on a plate. And then there you go. Two really easy meals that we made while we were hanging out here and all done from frozen. Let me bust into this and see if it's ready. The sockeye burgers, when they're underdone in the middle, you'll pretty much know they'll look very raw, but this looks perfect to me. It probably was because I let it rest. Juicy, sweet, savory, super delicious. And really think beyond the burger if you're not crazy about burgers. So convenient to have a sockeye burger in the fridge because you really don't need to do anything to it. You can just eat it with on a plate with nothing on it and it's going to be delicious. So yum. And for that you saw super flaky, perfectly cooked. If you don't like the skin, make sure you take it off before you flake everything, but I do. So I'll save that for later. And I think that's it for today. Join me next week. We're going to be making seafood chowder two ways using a similar formula. So if you're into seafood chowders, who isn't? That's a really fun one to come to. We're going to have a lot of fun just throwing ingredients into a pot and seeing what happens. So until then, I hope you enjoy cooking salmon from frozen or not, or using your air fryer. And thanks for coming. Thanks for all your time and live wild, everybody.